Okay, so I saw this tweet and it said we haven't had a performer like this since the early 2000s. Like, whoa. And someone quote retweeted and said, y'all in this obsession with capturing the 2000s. I agree with this reply to the tweet. They said people are obsessed with the 2000s because most of the successful mainstream artists back then were performers. At some point during the late 2010s, we started seeing more performances from artists that didn't give a fuck about performing, couldn't dance, or had bad stage presence. So I think that this is a big part of what it is. People are looking for memorable performances and stuff like that. Think about Britney with the snake, for example, at that VMA's performance. I mean, that was certainly iconic. Look at the many iconic performances that Beyonce has given us all the way throughout her career. I mean, whenever she performed at the Grammys with Prince, it's something that people are talking about weeks afterward because they were just blown away by it. We don't see that much anymore. And so I also kind of wanted to talk about some artists that I feel like are doing it well in terms of bringing back that nostalgia, but also putting a twist on it. And I also wanted to talk about why we crave nostalgia so much and why it pretty much always works. So Bruno Mars, I think, is a great example of kind of catering to that. He has some influences like a Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, Prince, and James Brown. And you can just tell in his presentation, like his vocals are always going to eat his songs and his styling and even the producers that he works with and stuff like that. It's something that reminds you of back then, but it also still really sounds great now. And that's why I think his catalog is actually going to age quite well. I feel like he has only put out a handful of songs that are like of its time, like Uptown Funk, for example, but I mean, just the way that he presents himself, the effort that he's putting all the way throughout it, and what he's pulling from, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it, and especially without Silk Sonic album in particular, I could appreciate it. I think the rollout sucked, I'll say that, but, I really enjoyed it. A great example of an album that does this is Dua Lipa Future Nostalgia. This came out in 2020. People loved it because she was smart about her sample choices and stuff, and also the original material was quite good. So she was pulling from that. She gave you the great aesthetic. She gave you the great music videos. She was really great in terms of the tour. And whenever I talk about milking an album, this is what I'm talking about. People don't milk albums like this no more. They release 2 or 3 singles and then they go home. They don't want to play ball with promoting the album, but Dua Lipa actually got to work. She really did. And I feel like this era just really took her career to the next level because just the dedication to the era and the music, and she just had hit after hit after hit with this album. So I think that this is a good example of a modern album that does sampling quite well and has that nostalgic feel to it, but was also really current for its time. Another artist who does as well, Oliviarodrigo, and so she has influences like Alanis Morissette. I think Avril Lavigne is up there, certainly. You have Taylor Swift and stuff. And so what I like is that, yeah, she has her influences, but to me it doesn't sound like she's blatantly ripping anybody off. And what I appreciate about her is the fact that she's still giving us bridges in songs. We're still getting 4-minute songs. We're getting memorable music videos from her. And so I think that what she's doing with her imaging and stuff like that is also smart, the interviews and all that stuff. It's reminding me how pop stars used to do it. She's not overly on social media too much. She does her performances, like she's just very smart with how she goes about it, and I think that the end product is really commanding. And she's done a great job with building up a fan base as well. And I made a whole video on why I think she's so successful. I'll link it below. Flo is a really great example of an artist who I feel like really has a lot of nostalgia in their music. Like they have influences like Brandy, like Mariah Carey, for example. And all their songs pretty much have that kind of feel to it, but modern. And so that's why I really like them, because you can tell that they did their work in terms of, just studying the pioneers of the genre of R&B and just music in general. Just love the production that their songs have to it. I love the vocal harmonies that they have. I love the lyrics. They were really able to make it their own, and they have not missed. All these songs they release, and I don't think that they have a single bad song in their discography. I think that they're getting better with their stage presence as they go on, so they're definitely eating, in my opinion. Victoria Monet is a great example of an artist now who I think is excellent at performing live. Her breath control is there. She's going to hit the choreography and do exactly what needs to be done. I also think Doja Cat is excellent at this as well, and just really putting on a show. Megan Thee Stallion I really quite enjoy. I like Harry Styles a lot as a performer right now. So those are my favorite performers. I think that they're some of the people who are giving memorable performances that people will be talking about a few weeks from now. A lot of artists don't really care about that, and you can tell. The reason why I think that the nostalgia works is essentially, yes, people like nostalgia because it reminds them of a simpler time and also a better time, so we have that as well. But like someone was saying, it's because the performances were better. I think that the eras were better. I feel like there was a whole thing of just being a superstar that was better. We only have a handful of superstars now, but in the 90s, we had Mariah going head to head with the Whitney, with the Janet Jackson, with the Toni Braxton, with Celine Dion. Like, they were all huge in the same time. and they were all having their own success. And so we don't really see that happening as much now. Like, we have a couple people, they have their cute little eras, and that's it. And so there are differences in regards to that, and I just feel like a lot of times the performances are not really memorable, the album rollouts aren't memorable, they're not really great at being a superstar and handling the media and just being smart about the rollout and presentation of their albums. So whenever I see a great performance or a great album that kind of harkens back to that, it's just like, this is what the music industry was supposed to be. You know, they used to have artist development, and there was just so much more in a superstar in the 90s than we see now. My standards for watching performances were lower 10 years ago than they are now, because, you know, I was just a kid growing up and I was just seeing like my favorite people performing. I think that's what it used to be. But I think a lot of people just kind of got used to that, you know, especially if like you're my age and you didn't go back and study people like Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, Britney Spears. And I think Britney Spears is like one of the greatest pop stars of all time, and I think I'm going to make a video on my favorite pop stars of all time. But I think there's just so much in it, and I think that was also just a really good decade for music and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of time people are reductive with the samples and just being able to flip things on its head. So I think in a lot of ways we kind of went wrong in the music industry. And I think a lot of it is more so about profit and not about integrity and making artists that will last. It's all about how much money can I get right now. So I think that's why people clamor for nostalgia, and I think that's why it's going to continue to work. I think that you have to do it in a smart way and kind of add your own twist to it. But I mean, that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, because I'd love to continue this conversation, but I think it's something that's really fun to talk about.